Today we are tackling one of the most divisive, controversial things that you can do in football, which is picking an all-time Premier League 11. Now, disclaimer, I was born in 96. I've just had a tough time up till now. But let's get into the team and I'll talk you through my selections and why. So, starting off in goal, there are three standout options to me. It's between these three, in my opinion. Now, there are other good goalkeepers that we've had in the league, of course, but this is the most common answer, I think, Peter Schmeichel. I think if you put it to a public vote, I think that's the guy who takes it a little bit before my time, if I'm honest. Understand it, though, like a bear in goal. But then again, Alisson is also like a bear in goal. In terms of their stature, in terms of 1v1s, the way they come out and just make themselves big. Very similar from that perspective. Petr Cech, you cannot ignore the records in which he broke in terms of part of that Chelsea side. Obviously, they had a good defensive unit. They were quite a... I don't want to say a defensive side. They scored a lot of goals, but they were very... Mourinho and Benitez at that point in time were very defensively stable in the way they set up. You know, they had a solid back four, a great holding midfielder in Makelele for a period of time as well. John Obi Mikel and they're good holding midfielders in front of that back four, Carvalho, Terry, etc. But he was an incredible goalkeeper. Now, showing my bias early, I would go with Alisson Becker. The reason I would go with Alisson Becker is I think goalkeeping wise, that's close. They were all probably the best goalkeeper in the world at various times in their careers. Alisson as well. It's just the footballing side of it in the modern day. I'm not saying he's the best in the world with the ball at his feet because he's not. But he is better than the other two options. Cech and Schmeichel, you know, at that time, playing out from the back wasn't as such a thing. And, well, it was, but not to the same degree as it is now with the importance. And I think Alisson, I'm just going to edge it with him on that. I think he's been world class for 7-8 years, top 2-3 in the world. I think he was the best in the world for a period of time. But I think you could say that about those two as well. So we'll start there. Now, we will be playing a back four. I think whatever we do, it's between a 4-3-3, because that's probably been the formation of the last 15 years or so, or 4-4-2. That's more of a traditional first formation for the first 20 years or so, right? So 15, 20 years, sorry. I think the next debate we're going to have is at right back. Now, I think there are three names for us to discuss, and it depends what you want. Mr. Reliable, Gary Neville, obviously won everything, good player. But I think if you're going for that, personally, I think Kyle Walker's just ahead of him. So I would say straight off the bat, it's not so much that Trent is, you know, I think Trent is actually third place out of these three, if I'm honest. It's just that he can give you something different. Whereas what Neville's going to give you, yeah, in terms of his brain, I think he's smarter than Walker was. But I think because of Walker's pace and power, I think Walker was defensively better than Neville anyway. And in the early part of his career, he was very good at getting forward. So Kyle Walker is always going to play. If whatever reasoning you'd give me for Gary Neville, I think Walker plays on that reasoning. Whereas if you were to put Trent in for that particular reason, you might have an in card with that. But look, being honest, I think Kyle Walker is the right back in an all-time Premier League 11, in my opinion. Moving on to centre-back, we got some good options, and it depends how you want to do it. I'm thinking of it as kind of right centre-back and left centre-back, but that's just because I'm thorough and I like to do things, you know, in detail. Not everyone does. Now, right centre-backs, left centre-backs. These are the names that I whittled it down to, okay? Now, I'm going to be honest with you. I'm going to level with you guys. I don't remember him playing for Man United. I was born in 96. That was 1999, etc. when they, you know, won the Champions League in Barcelona against Bayern Munich. Big part of it. I know how incredible he was. I actually watched him for AC Milan. Still a good player then, by the way. But I understand. I've done my due diligence. Quick, strong, good on the ball, good at everything. Probably would be in there if I knew a bit more. But I'm going to discount myself. I think it'd be disingenuous for me to put him in, given that I didn't see it. And for the same reason, I think Tony Adams, I'm acknowledging these players, but I don't think it's fair that I go and put players in. You know, for me, look, being honest, you're probably capping it at about 2,000. So they can just go out on technicalities. If you're older and you know, would have them in, that is fair enough. I'm between these three. And to be honest, I think the best two are these two here. Van Dijk and Terry. The only thing I would say here is I actually think in terms of styles, they would complement each other really well, because I think you've got a really aggressive centre-back there in John Terry, someone that's going to go up and try and attack every ball and win every header. And Van Dijk's a very patient defender. I know he wins a lot of headers. I know he always has the top aerial duels won in the league, etc. I get that. But in terms of standing on his feet, letting things develop in front of him, hence he gets criticism for allowing people to take shots where, John Terry, to be honest, would have put his body on the line and thrown his body at it. Complementary styles. You look at Arsenal at the moment, Saliba and Gabriel. They complement each other well. I think the best centre-back duos do have that yin and yang, if you will. And from that perspective, I think these two complement each other really well. I think he's a more patient defender, obviously a better ball progressor. He was incredible on the ball as well, by the way, so don't sleep on it, because he was incredible on the ball. I think I've heard him say in interviews before, John Terry, that I've heard him say this, so he can come after me afterwards. He didn't like playing right centre back because everything was in reverse. Everything was like in the mirror. Okay, when a cross is coming in from one side and left centre back, your body position set up a certain way. If you're now facing the other way at right centre back, everything's in reverse, and I can understand that. Some players don't struggle with it. You reference Mark Gay, for example, plays a lot of left centre back, played a lot of the left of a back three at Crystal Palace. Obviously, different levels to this, but I'm just saying for exemplary purposes. But I've seen him do right centre back, and it doesn't really bother him. Konza the same for England. John Terry did suffer with it. So for me, John Terry's playing as that left centre back, or he's not going to play. And if I'm picking the best duo, I'd do that. But to be honest, I've never seen Van Dijk on the right. I'm not saying he would struggle with it. He probably wouldn't. Basically, between these three, I'd have a conversation. And if Van Dijk was comfortable playing right centre back, that's what I would do. But as I've not seen it, I think it's disingenuous, and I've got a choice to make between Van Dijk and Terry, and I actually do think Van Dijk edges that. I think that it's very close. John Terry was always, for me, the best centre-back in Premier League history, but I think Van Dijk went past it. It's been a long time of Van Dijk being a good player now, and yeah, for me, that is probably going to be my centre-back duo. Okay, so moving on to left-back. Look, this one I haven't even got any options, just Ashley Cole, and I think I'll move on from there pretty swiftly, because Ashley Cole was the best left back in the world, I think, for a period of time. Definitely deserves to be in this team. Now, the debate we're getting onto now is system. Are we going 4-4-2 or are we going 4-3-3? We're going 4-3-3, and I'm going to tell you why. If we go 4-4-2, who's going to be right midfield and left midfield realistically? What options are we looking at? I think what will end up happening is this. David Beckham, right midfield. What other options have we got? Ronaldo? That's not really his position, is it? Aaron Lennon? I'm joking. But you take my point, right? There's not a wealth of options here. It's just going to be David Beckham. And on the left, Gareth Bale, Ryan Giggs. Gareth Bale, again, disingenuous. He did more at Real Madrid. Ryan Giggs, who's rivaling that? I'm not saying they're not incredible, by the way. They are. If you go 4-4-2, I think these are the wingers. I just don't think there's any competition. Whereas, when we go centre midfield, right? So that, by the way, if I go 4-4-2, I pick those two as the wide players, and then I have to choose two midfielders out of Gerrard, Lampard, Scholes, Keane, Vieira, Rodri, De Bruyne, Yaya Toure, Fabregas. I mean, there's more. David Silva, Bernardo Silva, whoever you want to say. My point being, the wealth of options. There's 9 players there I can pick from. Now, for me, you're now asking the question of, would I rather get an extra one of these in, i.e. a 3-man midfield, or do I want Giggs and Beckham? And I absolutely would rather have an extra man in midfield. I think 4-3-3 is a better formation anyway. I think that the players here are superior to the players that I'm leaving out, and systematically it works better. And when we come to the front line, again, you're going to get similar debates because you could get 2 strikers in. You're now not going to get 2 strikers in, and it's difficult, and I get that, but that's where we're at, guys. So we're going 4-3-3 for that reason. I hope that made sense. Now, we're going to go with 1 holder and 2 number 8s. In terms of those holding midfielders, let's just put them out. Keane could do both. Let's just get them into a Rodri holder. Vieira can be a holder. Lampard, let's just pop them like that for now. So, Scholes obviously played deeper later on, but for a 4-3-3 with 1 holder, I'm looking for someone that's going to tackle. So he's not going to play as my lone holder. He would either play in one of the number 8 roles, which he's Not going to, if I'm honest. Yaya Toure obviously played centre-back at Barcelona in the Champions League final, played holding midfield at Man City, then went to attacking midfield, would be great in a number 8 role, of course. Roy Keane probably played a lot of his football as a box-to-box player anyway in a number 8 role, so absolutely could do that, but also played as a holding midfielder. Vieira, the same again, box-to-box player, to be honest, but yes, you could get away with him as a holding midfielder. And N'Golo Kante, not on the list. Again, I think often misprofiled as a holding player because I don't think he was. I think he was better when he played in the midfield too. Leicester played 4-4-2. He played in the centre of that. And Chelsea played a 3-4-3 again, two-man midfield with Matic, where he played just everywhere. Ball chaser, not a disciplined holding midfielder. You like some Makalele, probably didn't play long enough in the Premier League to be in this discussion. Look, holding midfield, I'm choosing between these three here. Okay? Now, Premier League legacy, I think Roy Keane, probably the right answer there in terms of Premier League legacy. I think Vieira, Roy Keane, Vieira is a debate. They've got a bigger Premier League legacy than Rodri. However, Rodri was the best midfielder in the world, won the Ballon d'Or, and I thought his influence on that Man City team, the Spain team, Euros, that run that he went on where he didn't lose 59 games or something daft like that. But then what was interesting about that is the games he did miss, they did lose games. So it didn't just happen once. It's not like there were 62 games he missed 3 and they lost it. No, genuinely, the games he missed, it was semi-frequent. They would, when he didn't play, when he played, they'd win. Rodri, rather controversially, is going to be my holding midfielder. I understand that's controversial, but these things always are. I think he's incredible. Did he do it for long enough? No. Is his Premier League legacy as good as Keane's? No. But Vieira and Keane have freed themselves up. They could still get in a number 8 role here in that capacity. In terms of whittling this down, look, I'm going to take Fabregas out. I don't think Fabregas should be in this team. He's an incredible player. Yaya Toure, prime. If we're going prime, he absolutely could be, because I think for 18 months he was like as good as any player I've seen in the Premier League. He was incredible. But I'm going to take him out. I'm going to take Paul Scholes out. Look, if I'm going to put, I'd probably rather put Roy Keane in, to be honest, out of the two. Lampard's got every chance of it. Incredible player, incredible output, incredible player. Now, again, showing my bias, but genuinely, the best all-round footballer I've ever seen is Steven Gerrard. Steven Gerrard will be in the team. I'm just getting really biased now, aren't I? But I do believe that. I think, really, if he's playing in his best position, he's playing in that right centre midfield role. The problem I've got is, in my opinion, Kevin De Bruyne. I'd always say Gerrard is the best midfielder in Premier League history. De Bruyne runs him close. I find them very similar. If I'm being honest, and I like to try and make things, picking teams on balance, it's all theory, right? Getting the style right between players, getting the chemistry right. These two are probably too similar to play in the same midfield, if I'm being honest. I think they both probably want the ball to... They both want to be the ones to deliver the final pass and, take risks with their passes, driving forward, vacating midfield. They probably both want to play in that right channel. They're just too good. I just can't ignore it. Usually I'm quite balanced over everything, but with these two, I cannot ignore it. I think he could just do absolutely everything. That's why I score him slightly above De Bruyne, just for the defensive side of it. But he's just as athletic as Gerrard. I think he's a slightly better passer. I said that very quietly. Shh, don't say anything. He is slightly better at passing. I think his ball striking is incredible. His vision is probably better than Gerrard's. They're both as quick as each other. Incredible midfield. That would be my midfield 3. Now, really, if I'm building a midfield 3 from scratch, I only want one of these types of players. You probably want the other one here to be someone that's just going to tick the ball around, someone that's not going to take as many risks. That's why it works with like a Bernardo Silva. That is where, really, if you're picking the right style of player, you could bring Paul Scholes in. He could do that. You're clipping his wings a little bit because he's got a little bit more in his locker, but he can play 1-2 touch and keep things simple, but he's also got an expressive 40-yard pass in his locker, of course. Or you would go like Cesc Fabregas, even though I think he's probably like 9th place in terms of the players I just listed there. Premier League legacy, just styles being correct. Good passer, disciplined holder midfielder, not going to vacate midfield. Again, not the most leggy player in the world, not going to vacate the midfield, but it's going to allow De Bruyne to get into forward spaces, or Gerrard, whichever one of them you picked, and they are kind of the main creator in midfield, the one that these two are going to keep the ball. You know, you think, yeah, just rotating the ball, winning the midfield battle, but they're looking to get the ball to him, who's going to be the one to make things happen. That's how you would idealistically build a midfield, in my opinion. But forget all of that. We're going with this. And again, I know they both like that right channel. Really, you shouldn't do this. This is the one occasion in my life I just can't ignore it. They're both too good. They're both going in the team. Gerrard and De Bruyne. I'm going to put Gerrard just slightly on that left-hand side, albeit I do understand that he prefers the right, but I'm sure there's some interchanges can happen. There's going to be times, I think, if anyone's going to get a bit further forward, it's going to be De Bruyne. But to be honest, I think he can play everywhere. Good player. Serious player. Right, let's move on. So, playing with a front three. For me, the right wingers are between Ronaldo, Salah. Now, Ronaldo can also do that left, so that does give me an out card there. Now, in terms of best player I've seen in the Prem, it is Ronaldo, really, in the prime. Henry is the best player I've seen in the Premier League, to be honest. But Ronaldo, 2008, Man United, 2007, around that sort of period, 2009, whenever it was, absolutely unplayable. It's just, in terms of Premier League legacy, this one is Salah. If you're playing the right hand side, it's the numbers. You can't ignore the numbers. I understand that aesthetically, he's not as technical as any, probably the least technical player outside of Kyle Walker and maybe Ashley Cole in the team. I get it. But you cannot ignore that output, the relentless 8 seasons of goals, assists, and he's done some audacious things as well. So I'm downplaying his technical ability, but it's not strictly true. You know, he's pulled off some worldies, not just goals, but assists as well. Mo Salah is going to be my right winger for this team, which leaves us in a position here on the left wing, where again, I think Ronaldo's probably your obvious choice. And if we're going on prime, that is absolutely what I would do. I'd put Ronaldo there. That would suit him. I know he played a bit more on the right for Man United than he did on the left, but he still played on the left. He played down the middle at times as well. That would work nicely, of course. And in terms of other players, we're ignoring Giggs, but Giggs would have been a bit further back here at left midfield in a 4-4-2 more often. And Giggs, again, could play in midfield itself, the same as David Beckham. They could play in these centre midfield roles, of course they could. But for these two to work, you need a facilitator in the middle, okay? So Thierry Henry is the best player in Premier League history. So Thierry Henry is going to be in this team. Now, Thierry Henry played in a front two. Dennis Bergkamp is not going to be in this team because there's not room within my formation to get him in. You've either got to build the team around him or you don't. But Henry kind of played in a front two, if you will. It's not the same as being a focal point in a front three. It's really not. So, as much as Henry, in theory, we could plug him as the striker. Yeah, he's a good passer. Yeah, he could link play a little bit. Let's just ask a different question here. We're talking about Ronaldo and Salah. We're talking about Ronaldo towards the end of Man United. Now, of course, over his Premier League legacy, he wasn't that level of player for only about a third of it, right? And Salah's output was incredible from the start. We need someone in the middle. Just put Bergkamp for now, that's going to facilitate the other two. So obviously Firmino did it at Liverpool for Salah and Mane. No, I'm not going to choose Bobby Firmino. That would be ridiculous. I'm not going to do that. But what I'm going on to say is, in my belief, and this will never be proved because it's only theory, Thierry Henry is not going to be the man here that is going to bring the best out of these two. That won't work. I can't see how that would work. He wants ball to feet, you need someone in here that's going to knit it and glue it all together. For that reason, let's just bench Henry a second. I think you're looking at proper number 9s. Was Henry a proper number 9? I wouldn't have said so. You get some players that he was a striker. He wasn't a winger. He was a striker, but a striker in a 2, right? Michael Owen was the same. Michael Owen wouldn't play as a number 9 now. He'd probably play as a winger, even though, again, he's definitely not a winger. He's a striker, but no teams play in front 2s anymore. So he would now play as the number 9 or out wide. Where do you think Michael Owen, Henry, would play in today's game? I think it would be more likely to be out wide than as a central number 9. But we'll never know, will we? I just think that's more logical given the pace they've got, the lack of physical presence, hold up play, etc. I think the strikers you're looking at, probably these four: Kane, Rooney, Shearer, Aguero. Now Shearer is the all-time Premier League top goal scorer. People say he should be in the team. I get it. He is a number 9. So yeah, he's what we're looking for. Absolutely. However, I would say, do you think Shearer is going to facilitate? I use that word, facilitate Salah and Ronaldo and help them get more goals? Not for 1 second. He's not. So I think if you play Shearer, is Ronaldo going to adapt his game to help Shearer get goals? No. Is Salah? No. Right, so Shearer's not going to be in the team. For that reason, I'm sorry. Harry Kane? Absolutely. Harry Kane's a brilliant facilitator. He can drop into midfield. He can play passes. Ronaldo would score probably more playing with Kane. So would Salah. Maybe Salah wouldn't take penalties, but Kane would get him chances. I don't know if he'd score more, but you take my point. If Salah's scoring 22 a season, it only drops to 18. Whereas if he plays with Shearer, maybe he scores 11. It's a big drop off. Rooney, all the same points. Fantastic footballer. Could easily play in midfield. You're not losing anything with playing Wayne Rooney there. Aguero, I'm sorry, I'll go back to the Shearer point. Totally different player to Shearer, of course. But Aguero, brilliant player. Not good. The gap between him and Kane and Rooney isn't big enough for me to want to... How do I say? Say they're all quite equal as strikers. You might even say Aguero edges it. That's up to you. I wouldn't, but you can if you like. If we were to score it, Kane as a facilitator, Rooney as a facilitator, I say 100%. Aguero is probably 50% of what they are in terms of facilitating the wide players. For that reason, if they're equally as good as goal scorers or close enough, Rooney's probably not quite as good a goal scorer as Aguero, but Kane is. It makes no sense to pick Aguero on that, It's about facilitating the wide players. So now I'm between Kane or Rooney as the number 9. Again, I'll bring Henry back into the graphic. I've mentioned why I don't think Henry fits in terms of facilitating the wide players. But I have to get Henry in the side, and that's the difficulty. And this is where it gets a little bit square pegs and round holes because, again, I think you play with a front 2 to get him in, but we're not playing with a front 2. But I have some reasoning behind this. I think you take Ronaldo out. I think you put Henry over there. Now, he didn't play as a left winger. I get that. I do. I totally get that. He did at Barcelona. He did it very successfully. He played on the wing before he came. Winger in a 4-4-2, which is where everyone played, back then, is totally different because you're asking someone to be doing up, down, up, down, up, down. Whereas here, I'm asking him to press from the front. You've got to work back a little bit, but it's not a left midfield shift. And really, guys, what he's doing is he's going to be coming in closer to goal because if we're picking one of these two in Kane and Rooney, just drop Rooney off for a second. What we're really doing is we're asking Kane. The ball's being played at Kane is dropping into here and creating that fourth midfielder. Ball's coming into him, and as he does, and as just use these as centre backs a second. Just use these as centre backs. If he follows him in there, that creates a gap for him to run into. Right? See that run there? Whoosh. Whoosh. If he doesn't follow him in, Kane has now got the ball, time and space, nobody's followed him, he can turn. He can start playing passes over to Henry and getting in. I honestly think if Henry played now, he would probably play left of the front 3. I look at Mbappe, I think they're very similar, by the way. Mbappe, if he'd have played 10, 15 years ago, would have played as a striker. There's no doubt about it. He's playing at Real Madrid as a striker now. You can see he's not as effective as a central striker as he is when he's coming in from out wide. He is one of those players where I wouldn't say Mbappe's an out-and-out winger. He's not. He's also not an out-and-out number 9. He's somewhere between the two. If he'd have played in a front 2, as they did used to years ago, it would suit Mbappe a lot more. And that is the justification as to why Henry is playing as the left winger. I hope that makes sense. But now we've got one last decision to make. It's between Kane and Rooney. Now, I think Rooney's a better all-round footballer. I think if you played Rooney there, centre midfield, he's got the engine to do it. He can do everything. He's very rounded, right? Kane's very rounded as a footballer, but he would lack the athleticism to play in midfield. As a striker, though, they're both complete in terms of they can drop in, they can link play. And if you play either of those two, with Henry, Ronaldo, Salah wide, I think both of these two score goals, but they also complement the wingers and bring them into play as well, which is important, very important in this team. However, I think Harry Kane is, well, it's not a debate, is it? He's a superior goal scorer to Wayne Rooney. And I think he's just as good at passing, probably better in the air. Rooney's more mobile. That's important. And that, in some games where I watch Harry Kane, he can, but you watch him particularly in the summer tournaments playing for England, he goes missing in games because his legs, he's just not. Whereas you won't get that with Rooney. He's going to be more mobile, going to be more complete in his performance from week to week. But in terms of if I'm picking a team, I'm going Harry Kane. I really am. And I know that's unpopular, but that is what I would do. And that there is my all-time Premier League 11 and why. I know a lot of people aren't going to be happy about it. I hope you can understand the reasonings though, because that's ultimately what it's all about. I would certainly understand many different players being in this. Of course I would. I think Rooney could be in it. Shearer could be in it. Aguero could be in it. The problem is you can't play with 5 strikers. So you can't have everyone in it, guys. It's one of those things. I think the one that's just a non-debate is Ashley Cole. I don't see... You could go further back. Maybe you want to put Dennis Irwin in there, Stuart Pearce in there. It depends what sort of time period. But within my lifetime, just say 2000 onwards, Ashley Cole clears pretty much everything else I've seen. Andy Robertson is worth a mention. He's been very good as well. Patrice Evra was a good left back, of course, for Man United. That's my team. Let me know in the comments what you think of a team, what your team would be. I'd be interested to know. And if you don't subscribe, make sure you leave a comment with your team. That would be interesting. And subscribe to the channel. Cheers, take care, and have a good one.